Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is the Rice News analyst Emmanuel Great Malabite Efeni. Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Jinix. Jinix Oji Okpe. Good morning.
Well done. Good morning.
Let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, as expected. Buhari withholds assent to electoral bill. Says imposing direct primaries undemocratic. And this quote from his statement: the amendment as proposed is a violation of the underlying spirit of democracy, which is characterized by freedom of choices. Political party membership is a voluntary exercise of the constitutional right to freedom of association. Now, other newspapers, I will look at other newspapers, how they are reporting this story quickly, and we'll have to discuss it now. The Guardian newspaper, electoral bill. All eyes on lawmakers at decisive plenary today. Buhari National Assembly likely to dump public interest, vote parties' choice. Imposing direct primaries on political parties will cause trouble in politics, says Buhari. APC mom on refusal to assent bill. Outright rejection of bill shows APC's hatred for democracy. PDP is making that claim. In some Wike years, the governor of Rivers State, refusal to sign amendment bill is APC's scheme to rig 2023 elections. Exercise your veto power now. Yaga, NCP challenge lawmakers. ADP insists on electronic transmission of results, urges lawmakers to rescind bill. Now, the leadership newspaper, bold now in National Assembly court after PMB's rejection of electoral bill. President seeks amendment to direct primaries clause. CSOs, civil society organizations, urge lawmakers to let the will of the people prevail. National Assembly to pass 2022 budget today. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, President Buhari explains rejection of electoral bill, cites high cost of conducting direct primaries, infringement on citizens' rights, vindicates Sun's exclusive report of December 9. Yes, if I were the editor, I would also be thumbing my chest, the editor of the Daily Sun. Because on December 9, Daily Sun exclusively reported that President Muhammadu Buhari has decided not to sign the bill. And they have been proven right. They got it spot on. Now, the Vanguard newspaper also reporting this story. Why Buhari won't sign Electoral Act Amendment Bill. And, of course, other newspapers also have that story, maybe not as their lead, but also in their front pages. Now, Ruben, Rufai, and I just want to make some comments on this. Now, the president, like I stated yesterday, whenever he rejects to sign a bill, he explains, and he has given detailed explanation. And on this occasion, he has quarreled with just one aspect of this piece of legislation. That is the imposition of direct primaries as the only way political parties in Nigeria can pick their candidates. Yes, some of us actually have our reservation about that clause when the National Assembly settled for that. But again, we know that they were doing it also in their own enlightened self-interest, because as some of them put it, they want to curtail the powers of governors to dictate who gets what ticket at any point in time. That in itself happens to be a selfish clause they included by my own estimation and the estimation of many. But it is their prerogative as lawmakers to put whatever clause they want to put. And that was exactly what they did. But the president has pointed out that that clause will cause confusion, and he gave detailed explanation, economic, legal, political, as well as other reasons. And in doing so, the president said he got informed advice. We know the president wrote to the INEC. And of course, the Attorney General of the Federation gave the president his own advice. They did so well ahead of time, while the president had to wait till the last minute to announce that he's withholding assent. Well, it's another matter altogether. But again, it is within his prerogative. Whether he does it on day 1 or day 30, he had the latitude to do it anytime within that 30-day span. But again, the president has acknowledged that they call him Baba Go Slow. Sluggishness is not a virtue, and it's not supposed to be a compliment. But that is his style, and he has taken him the last minute to announce his position, and you cannot fault him. Now, for legislators who are afraid of their governors and felt we should impose this to curtail power of governors, if you are popular, your governor cannot stop you. If you are popular, your godfather you will disgrace. And we saw that when Obaseki in Edo State disgraced his godfather. Emmanuel, what's his other name? The governor of Akwa Ibom State, of course, he took his godfather to clean house to get his second term. And let's even look at legislative elections. In Lagos, a certain legislator by the name, he's in the Federal House. He should have enlightened them. Kako Are, that's his name, Honorable Kako Are, representing Mushin 1 constituency, federal constituency, when the bigwigs in APC denied him ticket because they thought they could do so. He moved over to Accord Party and he won the election. To the shame of those who wanted to stop him within the APC. So I agree that parties should be given the option to choose which model they want to use to pick their candidates. But with President Buhari having withheld his signature, what next? Yes, Ruben said, can the National Assembly members, they have the balls to do the needful, to override the president? Maybe not. Maybe that was why the president left this to the last minute when the National Assembly members will be engrossed in trying to meet that self-imposed deadline to pass the budget before they go on recess. That will engage our minds today in plenary. Can they find time to override the president? Do they have the numbers? And if they cannot do so, or they decide not to do so, what next? The president, if he's truly, and I want to give him the benefit of doubt this time around, truly interested in free, fair, and credible election, he should summon every ounce of energy he has to ensure that the correction he has objected to is done. And this law is represented as amended, this bill is represented to him for his accent, for his legacy, but most importantly, for the purpose of having free, fair, and credible election. Ruben Rufai and Jinx, over to you on this matter. Yes. Have I given an homily there?
Yes, I see. It's a subject you are excited about. And that's understandable because all of us are involved in this. But certain questions need to be raised. Are we back to 2018? In 2018, in March, in July, in December, the president gave various reasons for rejecting the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as proposed then. It was then the 2010 Electoral Act, as it were. And then, of course, we went into that election, and people thought, oh, the president did it because he wanted to protect himself. He needed a second time in office. What is at stake now? The argument out there is that the president himself, and that was reiterated by Mr. Peter Obi, who had been our guest on this program this morning, that, look, the president had promised to ensure the credibility of the electoral process. And to the extent that he has done so, he should be seen to be doing so. And it will seem that his rejection of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021, as proposed, is a departure from that commitment. I think that the president should realize that, look, there are expectations. People imagine, they expect that in 2023, he will leave Nigeria behind, not in chaos, not in a place of confusion, but a place of certainty. That's one. The second point is the National Assembly. What would the National Assembly do? The National Assembly, under Section 59, subsection 4 of the Constitution, can override the veto of the president, because effectively the president has vetoed the National Assembly. So we cannot keep talking about whether he will still sign it or not.
We've gone past that.
He has vetoed. Now, can they get the numbers? Would this assembly, under the leadership of Dr. Ahmad Lawan, who has said that this is a Buhari night assembly, would that assembly summon the courage to do so? We will expect to hear from the National Assembly. The third point is that there seems to be an overwhelming consensus within the country that the electoral reform is important, that the electoral laws need to be amended, right? And a step has been made in that direction. And the majority of civil society organizations say that what has happened up to this point is a good development. So how do we save this bill? Would people, constituents, stakeholders put pressure on the National Assembly to put into play Section 59, subsection 4 of the Constitution? The fourth leg of it is that even if the president had assented to it, like the experience we had with the Petroleum Industry Act, the point that was made at the end of the day is that no law is perfect. A law is a piece of legislation, is a living document. You can always change things, right? So what was the big problem, really? What is the big elephant in the room? Is it 2023? Is it any selfish reason? Because the law could have been passed and the National Assembly could have returned to it to say, we want to amend it further.
The president could have initiated further amendments.
So for me, history beckons. Reminds me of the fight between the unpopular King of England and the rebel barons that led to the signing of something called the Magna Carta, where the Bill of Rights started, where the rights of people were upheld. The lawmakers should remember that the barons now against this case of the leadership now, the executive. And there is separation of powers. And I'm sure the lawmakers fail to understand that parliament, as it were, comes from a French word called parlement, to speak for me. And they are there to speak for the people. There is separation of power. The executive and the legislature should never be in unison. It is dirty, it is bad for democracy. So the lawmakers should show their independence. Please.
Okay, Baron de Montesquieu, Separation of Powers, 1748. Yeah. The Nigerian Constitution, sections 4, 5, and 6.
Emmanuel Ofeni, thank you very much for joining us on Newspaper Review today.